I'll just give everyone a minute for that. Okay, awesome. So hi everyone, thank you so much for being here with us today. My name is Jocelyn. I'm a Health and Society major in the Bachelor of Health Sciences. And today with me, I have Ryan, who's a bioinformatic major, and Shay, who is a biomedical sciences major. We've already heard from Jennifer Logan, who is our program coordinator. And just a few other notes before we get started. I would just ask that everyone keep their mics muted for the duration of the presentation. And you can include any questions in the chat box, and we will get Jennifer to address them throughout, or we'll save them for the question period at the end. Great. So we would like to acknowledge the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprising the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and the Stoney Nakoda, including the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations. The city of Calgary is also home to Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. So we thought we would start with a poll for everyone who is attending today, and just let us know how you're feeling about starting university. And you can include it here in Zoom, and we'll just give you a few minutes to respond. Awesome, almost everybody. We can probably end polling. Ryan, do you have that capability? Okay. And then to share the results, yeah.
Do you see it? It says it's sharing.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so most people are excited. Some people are nervous. That's totally fair, but I hope after today, we'll get more people into the excited column. So I'll just close that. Moving on, so Shay, Ryan, and I will talk you through kind of some of our experiences in the BHSC program with a brief timeline of our journeys over the last 3 or 4 years, depending on who's talking. And we will conclude with more of an informal roundtable discussion on many different topics, and we'll include polling questions, kind of like the one we just included throughout. So I hope that everyone can join our discussion for those. And I know, Jennifer, you've already kind of mentioned a few things. Did you want to add anything else before we get started?
No, just happy to have you here today. And just so you know, when you have questions in the coming days, weeks, months, you can always contact me directly via email.
Great. Awesome. So this is a photo of my first year. Again, I am a health and society major. I am concentrating in political science, and we can talk about that a little bit later. And I did just finish up my 4th year. So this was a picture back in 2017 during what we call kickoff, and it's kind of a tradition at the University of Calgary. It's a big football game hosted at McMahon Stadium, which is like 10 steps from our main campus, and it's played between our University of Calgary team and whichever other team they're playing in the league. And everyone dresses up in their U of C swag and goes to McMahon Stadium and cheers our team on. It's super fun, and that's usually during a week. So I just wanted to include that memory today. So a couple other things. Oh, sorry. A couple other things about my first year experience. I moved away from home, which was in BC. And I think that was kind of a unique experience that you'll hear about today. So I got to live in residence and really kind of get out on my own, and it was super exciting, but also very nerve-wracking. And I think a takeaway from my first year was just that everyone is really in the same position. Everyone's feeling nervous and excited and not really sure what it's all about. So really try not to be too shy. And if you're comfortable reaching out to people, I think you'll find that everyone's more than happy to make new connections and support you along your way in first year. So moving on, this is a photo from my second year. This is from the summer after second year. So I had the opportunity to take part in a international global health field school research opportunity. And that took me, along with a group of other students from the BHSC program and the veterinary medicine program, to Tanzania. And we collaborated with a partner university in Tanzania, and we conducted multiple different research projects, but it was an incredible learning opportunity, probably the most unique experience that I've had in my 4 years. And I think this just shows that research can look very different, and it can take you really all over the world. So I hope that as we go through this presentation today, you might get a better idea of what research is and different opportunities that you might want to take part in. And just some takeaways from this year was really just to pursue getting into research as soon as possible, but really just kind of looking at different opportunities and finding what suits your passions. So moving on, this is my third year. So in my third year, I got to complete a full year practicum, which spanned over both semesters. But I also got to kind of continue on my summer research project and develop a poster, which I presented in Ottawa at the Canadian Conference on Global Health. So this was kind of a big leap for me. It was a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I think a takeaway here is just, if you're willing to step out of your comfort zone and take some of those risks, great things happen and you'll experience really amazing opportunities that you may never have considered. And then lastly, this is this year, fourth year. Looks a little different than the other years. There was definitely a learning curve to kind of pivot and switch to the online format, which I'm sure everyone on this call is a little more used to at this point. But I think it also kind of reoriented some of my passions, and I was able to explore some of our beautiful scenery around Alberta, get into the mountains for a few hikes, and just kind of take some more time for self-care, which is something that may have been lacking in other years with just how busy things get. But I think a takeaway here is really, if you can embrace uncertainty and be able to pivot and be a little bit flexible depending on the situation, you're really able to kind of make the most of it no matter what is thrown at you.
Thanks for that, Jocelyn. So now my name is Ryan, and I'm a fourth year bioinformatics student. So this was me back at the same event that you guys are attending right now. It looked a little different, but these are the friends that I've made, and I'm still very good friends with them today. So yeah, I think at this moment, just be excited of the friends and the connections that you can make, and just kind of build excitement for that. There definitely is a learning curve with balancing university expectations and volunteering. And I even was working part-time for the first time this year during my first year. So you kind of have to learn how to prioritize a lot of different responsibilities. But there's a lot of different avenues that you can explore. So this is my second year. I had never researched before, like a lot of you probably haven't, but I went into the undergraduate research symposium, which is what this picture is, without any expectations, and I actually ended up winning one of the awards, the Office of the President Award. So I think that just goes to show that you don't really need experience to try to get into research. You just try to work hard and see where it takes you. And second year is definitely one of the harder years of BHSC, but I found time to socialize with my friends, and you meet a lot of different people and a lot of like-minded people in this program. I think with your supplementary applications, they really do a good job of choosing the people that would mesh well together, because everyone in our cohort is pretty much friends. And then in my third year, I was getting outside my comfort zone and embracing different things. So I went for the, even though I'm a born and raised Calgarian, it was the first time I had ever gone hiking in third year with my friends. And that was a really fun experience, going outside in nature and stuff, because I'm definitely a city boy. And then in the Health Sciences Student Association Gala, so Health Sciences Student Association is one of the clubs that I am a part of here. And we organize a gala every single year. So basically everyone gets dressed up. We go to a venue that we book, and then we eat food, watch videos of our year, and just have dinner and have a great time and dance and stuff. So this is one of the highlights of our year, and it's just where everyone, whether or not you're in biomed, HSOC, or bioinformatics, BIM, or first through fourth year, everyone just has a great time together. And then that's also the year that the pandemic struck for me. So I just went with it, and I was like, I'll dye my hair because there's no one that's going to see me. And then that ended up changing because then we went into Zoom and stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of different changes to embrace. And then this is me in fourth year now. So I think it's been tough to adapt to school online for such a long time, as I'm sure it is for you guys. And it's important to keep positive, I think. So I've done that a lot through social media. I've connected with my friends and just continued to update everyone on like my status with my thesis. And actually in this picture here, I finished defending my thesis last week. So that was a big momentous occasion for me. And then, yeah, so my future goals post graduation then. I just applied to the Masters of Precision Health program that's here at the University of Calgary. So that's a new program that's starting next year. But similar to the BHSC, there's different streams, and I hope to kind of build upon the progression that I've already had during this program to learn how we can apply precision health to help improve quality outcomes for patients.
That's great. Thank you so much, Ryan. To introduce myself, I'm Shailene or Shay, and I'm a third year Bachelor of Health Sciences student with a biomedical sciences major and a bioinformatics minor. Reflecting back on my first year, this picture here is my MedSci 203 group, which is one of the first classes you will all do as part of the BHSC program. This is us right after presenting, and I think from this experience, I really understood how important it is to really work collaboratively and supportively with your other classmates, obviously while not committing academic misconduct, because that is not something you want to do. It's very important to support each other and kind of highlight each other's strengths and build each other up, because there can be difficult times, but it's so much more manageable and enjoyable when you get to do it with your peers. And with it, it was also a great opportunity to meet some friends. And some of my group members I'm still very, very close with today, which says a lot about, I think, our initial connection within the program. And kind of just to provide some context into my first year experience, I was and still am living at home with my family. And so for me, being able to meet people through these group presentations really allowed me to kind of socialize and make those connections. And then when I went home, that was kind of my break from school. Moving to my second year, one of the biggest things I did actually regarded the UC Dance Company. And this is where I think it's really important to highlight. It's important to get involved on campus and definitely like reach out to clubs. I was wanting to continue dance because I was a competitive dancer through most of my life before university, and there wasn't really a club on campus for that. And so I actually founded one with a few of my peers, some of whom were in the BHSC program actually. And on that note, I think it's I just want to highlight, if you are passionate about something and it doesn't exist, don't shy away from maybe stepping into something new and taking on an opportunity where you could start something new. Or if there is a club, kind of take on the opportunity to take an executive role or challenge yourself, because it can be very rewarding. And similarly to the group projects, clubs have been an amazing way to meet like-minded people on campus, especially from a multitude of faculties. And through clubs and other events that have been hosted, I've definitely been able to kind of solidify my future goals more or less, and meet some more people and gain some more opportunities. And I think they've really taught me a lot. Kind of recapping my first and second year together, I really tried to take advantage of opportunities presented to me, especially regarding research, because like Jocelyn and Ryan, I'm sure many of you, I really didn't know much about research, let alone had any experience coming into the program, and loved the opportunities being shown to us, some of which were actually sent by our program coordinator, Jennifer Logan. And I wanted to try and see what research was, figure out where I was interested to kind of better solidify my long-term goals. And so a couple of my peers and I presented at Big Data Challenge, which was a bit of a more independently led research project. And then between my first and second year, I also was able to do a summer research project and presented at the BHSC Research Symposium in my second year with my first poster that I created, which was definitely a new experience to present in that kind of academic focus, but a very good one that I've been able to learn a lot from. And these experiences also allowed me to kind of succeed further in a lot of the courses that I've taken since then. And into this past year, which is my third year, obviously with the pandemic, a lot of things have changed in some ways. So I've been able to kind of just enjoy the outdoors a little more with both my friends and family, and gone on a lot of hikes, really just trying to find things that I wanted to do in the more spare time that I had. In addition, kind of in that spare time, one of the biggest takeaways I had this year was to just really learn how to be adaptable and continue to challenge yourself when different obstacles are kind of thrown your way, such as the pandemic was for all of us. And in my spare time, I kind of taught myself how to sew with the sewing machine, and then made hundreds of masks to donate to some vulnerable families throughout the pandemic, so that I could kind of continue giving back despite some of my normal ways of giving back kind of were canceled. And from that, it was not only rewarding, but kind of fun to learn a new skill and an opportunity I wouldn't have had if the pandemic really hadn't come into our lives. And now I am just getting ready for my fourth year and thesis project that I have ahead, which is very exciting. And some of our roundtable discussions, we have a bunch of different topics that we kind of planned on covering to hopefully answer some of your questions. But feel free to ask any if they come up in the chat or at the end of our Q&A period. And yeah, we'll all provide some insight kind of on all the topics. And to start, we want to ask all of you what major you are in. So we have a poll going, and just answer. We'll just go for a couple more seconds until everyone's voted. Okay, great. So to share the results, I think like most years, biomedical sciences is definitely the majority, but we actually have a pretty good distribution of HSOC or Health and Society and BIM or bioinformatics as well, which is great to see. Kind of on that, I think we wanted to talk about some of the differences and similarities between our majors. So to start off, for biomedical sciences, I think one of my favorite things has been how engaging the major has been in regards to the connection of different types of science, including looking at stuff from a cellular level as well as physiology compared to kind of like technical wet lab work. And being kind of, as you all saw, in such a large major, I've really enjoyed the amount of different people that I've had kind of in my cohort, where we all bring different things to the table, but definitely have similar interests and passions, which allows us to really have a very supportive and collaborative kind of community among us. I will definitely say I've also loved the interdisciplinary nature of the program, where biomed students actually get to also kind of get some experience with health and society and bioinformatics, which Jocelyn and Ryan will talk more about their specific experiences with those. But kind of that interdisciplinary nature really allows you to kind of gain some additional perspectives than I think you would normally get, and be able to look at things from kind of a different viewpoint and different steps within some of these problem or solving areas. And I honestly found this interdisciplinary area super interesting, that's why I kind of decided to pursue a minor in bioinformatics. So kind of on that note, Ryan, do you want to talk about your experience in bioinformatics?
Yeah, so like Shay said, we all kind of share in each other's majors a little bit in terms of the content that we learn. So bioinformatics students, we learn a lot of, we take almost all of the same courses as the biomeds, but then you throw in also the computer science aspect. And that actually really gives you a different approach to problem solving, and it gives you different perspectives coming at it computationally. So it really opens your eyes to the other ways that you can solve the same medical problem. And I, through the comp sci side and even the other courses that I've taken, you really gain perspective outside of even the BHSC. I think there's a lot of opportunity to learn from other disciplines as well. And all of these contribute to making you a more well-rounded learner. And then being in bioinformatics, I think as we saw in the poll, we are the smallest major typically, but there's opportunity to stand out with this niche and build a unique skill set from it. So that's what I've tried to do in my whole degree, is just kind of stand out and be different and go my own path and see where that takes me. And I think this interdisciplinary work also is very beneficial for exploring those novel intersections. I think looking at each kind of discipline on their own is fine, but once you start to try to combine them together, that's when you start to really see really cool things happen and cool areas of research. And yeah, so I'll ask Jocelyn now then. Just as BIMF is, you can branch out into different things. I know HSOC, you can branch out into different concentrations. So you want to talk about HSOC?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Ryan. I would also echo what Ryan and Shay said, and I would just build on that to say, I think the most exciting part about the interdisciplinary nature of this program for me has just been, even starting in first year, just kind of learning from our peers, as well as learning in the lectures from professors and things like that. But to be able to work on group projects, or even when you're working on more individualized projects or papers, and you can hear from your peers on what their topics are about or what their interests are. I think that's just like a whole nother level of learning, and it's super interesting to listen to your friends when they're super passionate or really embedded in a different research area or topic that you may not have experience with. So that's another aspect of the interdisciplinary nature of this program that's super cool. Yeah, in terms of concentrations, so health and society students can branch out even a little bit further past our BHSC program. And we get a little more integrated into some main campus courses and programs because we can choose a concentration after our first year, and that would be in one of many different social sciences. So I'm a concentration in, or I have a concentration in political science, but I have friends who are in sociology, psychology, anthropology, econ, and I think that really branches out your exposure as well, because you get to meet students on main campus who are in those courses. And because we have to take a set number of courses to fulfill our concentrations, you actually do end up kind of seeing students again and again in different courses on main campus who are not part of the BHSC program, but you do kind of get familiar with those kind of cohorts on main campus. So that's really interesting. And then I think when the health and society group all comes back together for our HSOC courses, it's really interesting to see how people's concentration kind of influences their perspective or their knowledge that they can contribute to conversations and things in lectures. So that's another way that we kind of diversify, and you can really make it your own and kind of individualize it, which is neat. So moving on, I think we wanted to just reflect a little bit on our experiences with first year classes. And I just wanted to quickly say the photo on the far right is not including anyone, and it might seem kind of out of place, but this is one of my favorite places on main campus. It's the plant room in, I think it's the professional faculties building. And I know with COVID-19, there's a lot of uncertainty about how things will look in the fall, but I hope that everyone in this call gets the chance at some point during their degree to go check that room out. It's super awesome. There's lots of sitting areas to either just relax or study, and yeah, it's just a great place. It's really cool. So in terms of some first year classes, Shay has already talked about MedSci 203 a little bit, but I just wanted to reflect on that because that is a course that everyone in the program, whether you're HSOC, Biomed, or BIMF, you're all part of that class. And I think that class is really foundational for a lot of writing and reading skills for academic literature, especially. I know I didn't have any experience with that kind of work or that kind of reading before I came to the program. So this was a great kind of foundational course for those type of skills, as well as really just diving into the presentations in group projects. It's a real foundational skill that I think will carry through every year of the program. And it really just helps to develop and then maintain some of those relationships that will start out really early in the program. Before I turn it over to Ryan and Shay, I also just wanted to touch on one of my favorite courses in first year, which was HSOC 201. This is our first health and society class, and it kind of allows you to dip your toe into some of the health and society topics, and it can inspire you to choose a direction for your concentration or just get you more involved in some of the population level health aspects that are so core to health and society. So Ryan and Shay, I don't know if you maybe want to reflect on your experiences from your MedSci 203 groups. I know Shay, you already talked about that a little bit, or just any other first year classes that you were a part of.
Yeah, so I think with MedSci 203, you'll definitely see that group projects are a little different in MedSci. I think maybe, I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but I think we're all pretty similar in that we probably want to take charge all of the time, trying to do projects ourselves. But when you come into the BHSC, you're filled with a lot of like-minded people. So that's not really actually a problem. Group projects are actually really enjoyable to do. It's very much collaborative. It's very much learning from each other. So it's not like you're just doing all of the work. And my group, we did tuberculosis, and we called each other, we called ourselves Team Sputum after learning about tuberculosis more. And we still talk today. We were just very close right from the get-go. So that was a great first exposure to BHSC students. And then in terms of my other courses, so Comp Sci 231 is probably a big one that's probably a little daunting for bioinformatics students when they look at it. But I myself didn't have any experience with computer science coming into the program. I had done like one computer science course, but it wasn't even coding. So I was very much new, and that was definitely a hurdle and a learning curve to get over. But once you get over it, you start to know that you're much more capable than you think you are. And there's a lot of different problems that can be solved computationally. And overall, I think my experience in first year will be a little bit different than you guys, because now you guys are going to have more opportunity to engage with the BIMF material earlier. I think through our advocating on the student faculty liaison committee and working with our great directors and professors, we've been able to get that material and course content much earlier in the program. Because for me, I pretty much had to wait until third year before I learned anything that was bioinformatics related. So it's really great now to see that you guys are going to get that material really early, because that'll make you just even better bioinformaticians at the end of the day. So yeah, what about you, Shay?
Sure. So just to expand slightly on my MedSci 203 experience, you've heard a lot from Jocelyn and Ryan and myself. And my group, actually, we looked at gonorrhea, which was definitely kind of a fun topic to start off university with. And kind of on that note, there were so many different diseases that we did learn about and other groups presented on. And that was definitely a very exciting part of the class for me, beyond everything else we've talked about. Because you got to kind of hear the mechanisms of these diseases that you maybe heard of but don't really understand, and got to look at kind of the health and societal perspectives of these diseases, which really sets you up and starts you thinking for a lot of your future courses. And it's definitely, probably to this day, still one of my favorite courses that we've been able to take as a whole. Beyond that course in first year, biomeds have a lot of those foundational science classes, which you'll notice you definitely do know some of the content being taught in lectures, but they do go beyond it. And they also give you those opportunities to kind of build on the foundational knowledge and really technical skills that you may or may not have. I know personally I didn't have much lab experience, and so I was able to kind of figure out pipetting and all that fun stuff in those courses. And the knowledge really learned in those also allowed me to really be set up for all my future courses, because you'll notice everything after your first year really kind of adds on to what you learn, and getting that foundation in first year really allows you to kind of be set up for success in your following years. And it's definitely something I'm grateful we had the opportunity to kind of set ourselves up for. And we just wanted to ask, before we move on to our favorite courses, if you want to type in the chat, what are some of the topics you're most interested in learning about? You can just type them in the chat. It could be computer science or physics or physiology or the social determinants of health. Awesome. We'll just give you guys a couple more seconds. Awesome. I see obviously a lot of med science, which is awesome, but also a lot of different kind of courses or subjects being mentioned, which I think is super great. And from what I can tell, you'll definitely get the opportunity to learn about, honestly, all of these throughout your degree if you choose to pursue them. Kind of on that, I guess, Ryan, do you want to start sharing off with your favorite course of our degree so far?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I see a lot of them that actually said it. So my favorite course, even though I'm a bioinformatics student, I decided to take as one of my core options physiology, so MedSci 404. I think it's definitely a hard course, and the content is challenging, but it's a very exciting content to learn. I think in bioinformatics, we learn a lot about the micro level of concepts. So I'm going really down specifically like genes, genomes kind of thing. But in physiology, you talk more about system level. So learning about the different body systems that we have and what kind of physiologies or regular workings that they have. And that was really enjoyable for me because I felt like that content was really what I connected with. And then also another course that I saw that was my favorite, which was really surprising for me. I took this as my only open option just because of some requirements for future stuff. But I took Physics 223, which I know all the biomeds are required to take. That was actually enjoyable for me, even though it's physics, and I wouldn't have thought that, because in high school, I just really did not enjoy physics. I kind of got it, but I also didn't really. Like, you could ask me and I still wouldn't know. And then my teacher was just not very good. But I think that's really what makes the difference, is the professor that you have. So I had Dr. Anna Harlick, and she was a really great prof, and she changed my perception of physics. And now I'm much more confident in it as well. So I think that's why with both of these courses, kind of go outside of your comfort zone and see what other disciplines have to offer. What about you, Shay?
Yeah, I actually saw this in the chat as well. I think so far, one of my favorite courses has been MedSci 321, which is immunology with Dr. Jenny, who you may or may not have actually seen on TV throughout this pandemic. I took this in the fall of 2019. And so beyond just kind of gaining some of that foundational knowledge, which allowed me to understand what was going on in this pandemic a little more thoroughly, we went a lot into different immunology topics, including vaccines or pandemics or just infection in general and your innate and adaptive immunities. So it was a lot about these topics that I've heard little things about but never really understood. And I found it super interesting, and the teaching was very, very well done. And to this day, I still have an interest in immunology really because of that course. And I would definitely recommend it for anyone, whether you're interested in immunology or not. I definitely would say it's one of my favorites, especially now after seeing what's gone on in this pandemic, just to kind of really connect my school learning to kind of my everyday life now. What about you, Jocelyn?
Yeah, thank you. So one of my favorite courses, I think, would be Health and Society 408. That's a practicum course that we complete as HSOC students in our third year. And it's a full year course, so it spans over both semesters. And it's usually kind of a semi-independent research placement. So every third year SOC student is paired with a research team or a supervisor. And the exciting part is you get to kind of participate in a really unique research project. So no two students have the same project, but throughout the year we get to present back to our classmates and to our professors on kind of our progress and what we're working on, and kind of like the interdisciplinary nature in our earlier years. In third year, it's really exciting to see the different projects that people are taking a part of and kind of their progress throughout the year. It's really exciting, and it's fun to kind of cheer people on as they go. It's really neat to see where people end up with their projects. So my project in third year was working with the neurorehabilitation program at Foothills Hospital. And my project was in support of individuals with spinal cord injury in Calgary. So this was kind of a life-changing project because it led me into my thesis, which I also just completed last week with Ryan. And it was very challenging, I would say. It was a lot of work, and sometimes it may feel kind of daunting because you're doing this independently. It's not like group work, it's just you and your research team, but it was definitely rewarding. And I think the more challenging it is, maybe the more you get out of it. But it really is just about the time and the effort that you put into it. So you can really make it your own and kind of get out of it what you put into it, which was really, really rewarding for me. So we'll bring it back to a poll on the next slide here. Yeah. So just to ask anyone if you've ever had research experience. Awesome. We'll give it a couple more seconds here. We've almost got everybody. Nice. We can probably end the poll and share it. So as most of us, or all of us actually, coming into the program from high school, none of us had research experience, and I see that quite a few people do not. That's awesome if you do already, congratulations. There's also no pressure if you haven't yet. You'll have many opportunities to participate in research if that's what you're interested in.
Yeah, so kind of on that, I am definitely very similar to the majority of you. I did not have any experience with research and didn't really have a lot of knowledge even what it was or how I could get involved coming in. And so kind of as I mentioned, I was really keen on taking any opportunities that I could to kind of figure out if research was my thing and kind of which path amidst it I really was passionate about. And so I tried to get some experience in both like clinical, where I looked at magnetic stimulation on motor learning, which you can actually see in that left picture, and then also some more wet lab looking at the consequences of spinal cord injuries on cardiovascular systems, as well as neurodevelopment and some gene implications in that. I also tried out some dry lab with the big data challenge that I mentioned, where we looked at the impact of stress on cannabis use. And really through all of these opportunities, I've been able to kind of dabble in a bunch of different areas and see what really sparks my interest, which has also allowed me to kind of better prepare for the thesis I have coming up to really figure out what I'm passionate in, and has also allowed me to really connect some of my in-class learning with some more extracurricular work so that I can put kind of my knowledge, especially technical skills, to use. And recently actually did a MedSci 507, which is an independent research course, which you'll hear about. And I was able to put my bioinformatics minor skills a little bit to use and looked at the differential gene expression of pediatric cancers, which for me was definitely interesting to kind of see a different perspective in research compared to kind of what I have previously with a lot more of that wet lab kind of biomedical focused work. And kind of on that, I don't know if Jocelyn or Ryan wants to share a bit about their experiences with research.
Yeah, definitely. I can hop in here. So like Shay mentioned, I had no research experience before the program. And I think I entered it not really realizing all the different research opportunities that were part of this program or that could be taken advantage of. So I was definitely a little bit thrown off and a little bit nervous in my first year. And I actually chose not to pursue any type of research experience after first year. I decided to return home to BC, and I just worked that summer and hung out with friends and family. But that's just to say that you really shouldn't feel any pressure if you don't know what you want to do or you're not sure if research is really your thing. After first year, you will have a lot of opportunities to engage in research during semesters or in the summertime. And there's really no reason to rush into it if you're not sure. I would almost say it might be more fulfilling if you choose something that's engaging and exciting rather than just doing something because you feel like you have to. There's really no pressure. So since then, as I mentioned, after second year and up until this point, I've now had a lot of global and local research experience, and all of these experiences were highly integrated into diverse teams with multi-disciplines that were coming together to solve different problems and work on different projects. And those were really great experiential learning opportunities because I was able to apply some of the skills and knowledge that I'd learned in lectures to now these kind of practical or real world questions or problems that we're trying to address. And that was probably the coolest part for me. I've also had the chance to present at conferences like Shay and Ryan and in presentations for different clinical stakeholders at Alberta Health Services, which were great networking opportunities, but also kind of expanded my scope of interest and kind of paved the way for where my interests are leading me into the future. So it really opened up a lot of doors and kind of showed me what other career opportunities might be out there. Ryan, what about you?
So I've researched all 4 years of my program now. I found my initial opportunity actually through the Bioinformatics or BINF club. And now I'm actually the president of this club. So basically we get the opportunity to have different professors come in and talk about their research and kind of do like a lab tour so that they can let us know why we should join them, because BIMs are kind of high in demand. As you saw, there aren't many of us. But yeah, I kind of waited on what project I wanted to jump on. I think that's an important thing for you guys to take away is you don't have to jump on everything that you see right away just because you see that there's an opportunity for it. You can be a little judicious about it. And that's what I did, and I'm really happy with that decision. So in this picture here, this is my first opportunity with doing virtual reality research, trying to explore the digestive system and kind of make a game out of it in a way to teach other people about the digestive system. So that's completely like different, outside of my comfort zone, not even the code that I learned in school. So it was a really big learning curve, and it was a very different experience that I got outside of coursework. And then also afterwards, my thesis that I just did, it's been on leveraging electronic medical records and machine learning to learn how we can maybe potentially diagnose patients in home care, so the elderly patients, to potentially reduce risk of hospitalization. So doing this together, I wanted to be able to branch out with my bioinformatics opportunities. It's not just genomic sequencing and things like that. You can really do a lot as long as you find the right intersections between computer science and medicine. And yeah, so, but I think we also need to know that it's not all about research. It's not about academics in our program only. We have to do things outside of school to keep us balanced and sane at the end of the day. So things that I like to do for my spare time is playing tennis in the summer. So that's been kind of not feasible right now because of COVID, but I love doing that for activity. And then here, I like to do digital painting as well, just to be a little creative. I love playing video games. And then before COVID, I was volunteering with the elderly at the retirement home, which is actually how I kind of inspired my thesis project. So you never know what different things from your extracurriculars or outside life will lead back into helping your school as well.
Yeah, I definitely like to get outside and kind of honestly hang out with my dog, which has been great this year because we've been at home together all year. And so kind of just getting out, going on hikes, snowboarding, anything really just to kind of take a step away, I have loved being able to do. And beyond that, I'm pretty involved with dance in a few different aspects, kind of as mentioned with the club at university, which again kind of allowed me to integrate my extracurricular and interests as well as my university kind of campus experience. And then that also kind of expands into what I do for some of my volunteer and employment beyond just my academic studies.
Yeah, and I'll just quickly touch on this slide because I do know we have to get to one slide in particular before I think 10 maybe, but just to echo what Ryan and Shay said, just being able to have hobbies or hang out with friends or family or get involved in volunteering, those things are all a really great way to kind of balance your work and outside of school life. I really loved volunteering with children with intellectual and physical disabilities in different physical activity programs. But now that COVID has made that not as possible, I've gotten really into yoga videos on YouTube. Those are always great. And then I also just always look forward to Zoom calls with friends. It's a great way to connect in a safe way. And I've had some of the best afternoons just on Zoom with a few friends. So those have been really great times during COVID. Moving on, that kind of fits into our next slide. And I think I just wanted to touch on here, kind of related to that yoga and Zoom call. kind of schedule I've gotten myself into now, is just I've realized the importance of prioritizing self-care, and really just taking those times to step away from the computer, step away from a screen. And even though I may not be able to connect in person with people, just trying to maintain those connections, and also just taking time just for myself if I'm reading a book or going out for a walk or a run. Those really kind of support your success when you are at your computer and working on your school and things like that. Shay, I don't know, or Ryan, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, so I think it's fair to say that the pandemic has definitely changed what we do outside of school. And kind of on that, it's really taught me to be adaptable and kind of take advantage of the situations placed ahead of you. So personally, the pandemic really caused me to kind of get into a mask making kind of situation, which has been very rewarding and interesting to kind of get involved with. And really, I think overall, this adaptability we've all learned throughout this pandemic will be a very useful skill throughout university, and something that I think is actually wonderful. We've all kind of been able to build on it through this experience that we've all shared.
Yeah, and with the pandemic, I've really focused on personal growth. So I've done new things like going out for morning walks, working out, learning Mandarin, and then just trying not to burn out in general by switching up the routine a lot. So we'll just move on just for the sake of time. So yeah, we just want to know what is one topic that you wish you could ask Naprier about. So please type it in the chat what you might want to ask us or get to know about. And while you do that, we're going to move on just for the sake of time and tell you about some of advice we would give.
Yeah, I can start this one off. So the one thing I would say is just that in first year, at least from my experience, it felt very easy to compare myself to others. And in doing so, it became very intimidating, and there's a lot of kind of self-doubt. But I think the more that you can try to find contentment in your activities and your interests and also your skills, because each and every one of you do bring many different skills and perspectives to the program. I think if you can be a little more self-assured that you're where you're supposed to be, you have just as much of a right to be here as everyone else, then it's easier to kind of support your classmates and friends in all of their successes as well.
Yeah, that's definitely great. I think one kind of piece of advice I would love to share is just to remember university really is for learning. And so don't feel like you need to have all the knowledge or experience entering BHSC. Any opportunity that you're interested in, honestly, feel free to take advantage of it and put yourself out there, go beyond your comfort zone, and use this time to really learn the skills you want to get out of it, because it's going to allow you to kind of not only determine what you want to do long term, but really succeed in whatever you do decide to do, because you've been able to build on the skills necessary through your undergraduate degree.
And then I just want to end that I think there will be definitely highs and lows of university. I think that's to be expected. Not everything is going to be like sunshines and rainbows. But I think there's always something to look forward to at the end of the day. And even with both the positives and the negatives that you're going to experience, you're going to have a lot to gain in terms of experience, and that'll shape you a lot moving forward, because I know it has for me. So now, Shay?
Yeah, just before we close off, we just want to leave you with a statement from the University of Calgary that the format for fall term is not yet decided, but they are working to have an update by the beginning of June and want it to be as safe and supportive for all students as possible, as I, just like all of you, am hoping for the best news possible on this fall semester as I wait with all of